you. Oh, that was quick. Ooh, super quick. Okay. I haven't got your thumbnail, but I'm cueing you now, so hopefully. What's today? 13th. Okay. Well, hello everybody, and my lips aren't working. I better make my lips work, hadn't I? Oh yes, there we are. Clever avatar, clever avatar. He's made his lips work. Well, welcome back, folks, or welcome, I should say, to Metaverse Week in Review Inworld. It's, I believe it's, what is it? It's the 11th of January. No, it's the 13th of January. Lucky for some, unlucky for others, I guess. Probably unlucky for me, especially where live stream is concerned. Anyway, this is the Inworld portion of our show, and we're probably going to be actually publishing this Inworld portion as a sort of separate thing online, even though it sort of fits in our main show, the Metaverse Week in Review. So I'm calling this the Week in World, or something like that. I'm joined, as ever, although you might have difficulty seeing her, by Safia Widdershins. And
hello.
There is a story to be told here that you'll be hearing about in a minute. Welcome, Safia.
Thank you, Mel. Great to be back.
And I'm looking on the monitor here, and yes, people will be a little bit puzzled, but we will explain in a minute. However, we're also joined by Rowan Derrick.
Rowan Derris.
Derris. I'm going to go one day. A few minutes ago, I was actually referring to her as a man, so you can tell how lost I am.
Yeah, no.
Well, welcome, Rowan.
Thanks for having me.
And a special reason we have Rowan here is because we're going to be actually discussing arts quite a lot today. I've got more arts clips coming up later, but there is a wealth of arts activity happening for the new year in Second Life, so we're going to be getting around to that a little bit later too. In the meantime, I think the best place for
Okay, I've lost Mel's voice.
Me too.
I can no longer hear Mel. Maybe I should take over. Here he comes.
Okay, I must have sat on the button on the headphones. Okay, folks. Welcome back to myself. Yes, again. I think I sat on the button or did something, got entangled in the chair. Such is life. Anyway, I was about to say, I think the best place to start is with Safia, who can maybe explain what she's all about and maybe do something about transforming herself into a recognizable avatar for the rest of the show. Safia, welcome, and do tell.
Welcome. We're going to be talking today about some great new art shows that are opening. Rowan's been exploring them. Rowan writes a column called Ekphrasis for the Primperfect blog, where she talks about art and artists in virtual worlds, usually in Second Life. And she has been incredibly busy the last few days because there's so many great exhibitions opening. One of which dictates my avatar, because it is by Fuchsia Nightfire, who's launched an installation called Winter Outlined. And this is what you are. You are actually outlined. I'm going to stand up now. And you will see that I am just an outline of an avatar. It's very cleverly done. I think it's done through mesh. And I'm wearing actually a black skin, but then I've got this outline I wear over it. And I can skate in it. And I'm going to do a little bit of skating just to show you how it works. I can skate very carefully along the edge of the stage. There we go. And you can see me.
Not quite fall off.
I did fall off, but I think I can probably jump back on. Yep. And still skating. You know, this is pretty good. This is really fun. You go to an environment which is kind of like a winter forest, but with this cartoony edge. And you wear one of these
Mm.
avatars. You can get them absolutely free, male and female. And then you just have a lot of fun skating around on the ice as an invisible avatar. It's great fun, and of course, far less embarrassing when you keep falling over. Except I didn't. And it's one of
It's
the exhibitions,
I
one of the installations now open.
Yeah, I can see that from I've seen quite a few installations of hers, and they have a sort of quality about them, and I can see this fitting in quite well with them, the
Yes.
sort of her body of work, so to speak.
Well,
And it
body
also
of work,
reminds
because she does explore appearance and avatars, often using herself.
mm, it also reminds me of last year, if it's not still there. There was an installation, I think it's called It's Only in Black and White or something, which again used this sort of two-dimensional sort of cartoon look, although that didn't have avatars. It was a case of the build, and you walk around in your normal avatar.
Well, I believe,
I think she did give away an avatar with that one, actually. I
yeah.
think she had a black, sort of black silhouette one that you had, but I think she took it to Inworlds too, didn't she, Safia?
We made a Designing World show about the
Yeah.
exhibition in Inworld, and I believe it's still there. I'm not 100% sure,
Hmm.
but I think it's still there and you can go and see it there. The advantages of Inworld is, of course, land is cheaper and you can keep installations out for longer.
Yeah, yeah, I know Fisher has installations in both, so yeah, it makes sense to keep it permanently over there. Well, I must say that's all very, very nifty. As we
What do-
follow you skating around here. It's a pity. The season's over. All our snow and ice disappeared. You do look quite good on that.
Yeah,
But
we've still got snow over in my home, Sim, so I need to go for a skate on the lake before it goes away.
Oh, I've got a pond by the house. You can come over.
Ah, thank you. So I was going to say, what did
okay,
you think of the installation, Ryan?
Fuchsia's
yeah,
installation, yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of delight and whimsy in her works, and it's always really fun when you can go to any installation and just basically not only enjoy it but become part of it. And she provides these fun avatars, or just, like the one you're wearing, that you actually become part of the work yourself and truly interact with it. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It's very cute and interesting, and the music she has going on is lovely. So yeah.
now, Safi, I take it you're probably changing, so we've moved
I'm
the
going
camera
to
back.
change. So if you, yeah,
Okay, we discreetly
talk to
moved the
Rose.
camera back to the
It's not that
main
kind of show.
stage.
Yeah.
No, it's not that guy's show. We don't want Safi doing a striptease for us. Well, not going there.
Boost
Not
the
going there.
numbers.
So, Rowan, do you have the details on this? Do you know how long it's going on for this?
Oh
The
gosh.
second live one here.
I should be more prepared. I don't know how long that exhibit's open. Actually, this is the one that Safia wrote on, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Fuchsia. So it just opened, though. It opened this week. So I imagine it's going to be up for at least a
Oh,
month. It'll be
yeah,
up for a while. So it's
I
just been a week of openings.
yeah, I know features often are fairly short-term affairs, so that's why I asked. So, okay, well, while Safi is getting ready, let's let me ask you to launch into some of the other events.
Okay.
Actually, one I'd love to start with. Actually, we showed a bit of preliminary trailer footage for this on last week's show, which is Rose. Surnames again.
Rose Bortowski?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the arrival. I
The
think
Arrival.
it's officially called, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been very, very excited. I've been excited for both of the big exhibits that open this weekend because they're personal favorites of mine, and I think many, many other people, and also friends. And in particular, with Rose, her new exhibit at The Arrival is opened at LEA 23. And I'm also an advisor for LEA, and so actually Rose is one of the artists that I work with there. So I was kind of
Ah,
I didn't work at all on this exhibit, and at all. It was more like, troubleshooting. I'm there for her if she needs a shoulder sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, I hadn't actually seen it at all. I purposefully stayed away because I wanted the impact. And it opened yesterday. And it's the continuation of her Sousa saga. If you're familiar with her work,
Oh, yes.
she's been working with the Sousas for a few years.
Actually, I'm just thinking actually that I'm recording we were talking about second my birthday. I think it was last week or the week before, but I think it was 2 years ago. I mean, of course, she had some dolls
Yes.
with, I believe, all they had were naked chests or something, which caused a real furore. And she got kicked out of the birthday building. Yet I see this exhibit is now being, I think it was on Destination Guide or somewhere, certainly with Lyndon's endorsement, which is.
That story first, it was actually 3 years ago that it happened. It was not birthday, not the one before, but the one before that. So what's that? It's a 987. It was SL7B. And actually, that is where I met Rose because, and I won't launch through the whole long story, but the short story is that when she was removed, JJ Zifanwi of the UWA, I didn't actually see the exhibit, and he called me over to take a look at it and see what I thought. And I was absolutely intrigued by it because I'd only had a glimpse of her work before, but when I walked through that exhibit, I was struck by the fact that everyone was sort of either yelling about, oh, she's flouting the rules, or oh, it's censorship, and nobody was really looking at the work itself. And the work itself was basically a rehash, an analogy of the Last Supper and the betrayal of Christ. And I mean, I get a little bit highfalutin because I'm an art historian in real life, so I work. This really stuck me in, and that's why I'm a huge fan of Rose's work, because she engages with this material. And so I looked at it, and for me, it just kind of staring in my face. So I went and wrote a little article for Prim Perfect, and Rose came back and said, "Wow, you got it." I was like, "Yeah, it was great." So I've been a fan ever since, and I've interviewed her on several occasions and been so pleased to work with her. So her work, but that's I'm glad you mentioned it because it's a good sort of thing to think about in looking at this installation, because what's great about her work is you can go and you can look at it and you don't have to know a thing about art. You don't have to know a thing about art history. You can just go and enjoy the build for what it is. It's kind of strange and mischievous and surreal. It can be very disturbing, but very whimsical at the same time. But if you are interested in those kinds of things and you're interested in symbolism, her work is incredibly multi-layered. And I mean, she repeats images and symbols, like the fish. I mean, if we're going to talk Christianity, it's a pretty glaring symbol right there. And the idea that the Sousas have caught a fish, the fish was big, and then the fish dies, and they wonder if they're to blame. And you kind of go down this journey down the back of this big fish, seeing the different vignettes that she's created. And now, of course, she's moved on from just doing the kind of tableau sorts of setups that early Sousa Bubble piece was, to this one, which is mesh sculpture, highly interactive. There's a lot of places where you can, sit and swing and become part of the work. A lot of transformative pieces, and sound has always been a huge part of her work. And I think that's really where her mastery comes in her use of sound. And it's often her own voice that she's altered, sometimes the voice of her real life daughter. She records and meshes into her voice and morphs it. So it becomes really haunting. But anyway, it's a fantastic work. You can go look at either the Prim Perfect or the LEA blog, or just go to the work itself, and there's a note card that offers Rose's explanations for the work. But my favorite is she offers you 5 explanations, but the last one is it's your own story, and it doesn't matter what these explanations are. Find your own story in it. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, that's good. On my stops this week for sure. Which LEA is it again? 18, did you say? Oh my...
And On the note of the LEA, I mean, if you go over there and you just look at the map, I think the majority of the installations are open right now. Um, I mean, just catty corner from Rose is Eupolinos Ugajan's exhibit. It was where Ian Pahute's exhibit was. I mean, several other exhibits have just opened. In fact, I think there's one opening
Mm.
in it now that I think about it.
I got one this morning from, which again, I haven't had time to go to, Dreams in the Space, open today.
That
Do you know that one? LEA 6?
Dreams in Space is part of the full sim series that JJ curates at the LEA, where actually installation changes.
Ah,
So Rebecca Bashley's exhibit just closed, and now Chez, I think is his last name, Dreams in Space. So yeah, that is just opening today. And I think there's even another one that is just about to open too.
I had a note from someone who said Danger and Evolution by Kika Igle and Nesuno Mayo on a LEA 27.
Honor just blog that. That one's open.
Okay.
The one that's just about to open today.
Hang on, Ron, you cut out there.
yeah.
Can you say that again?
Yes. Later on today at LEA 16, I believe Pixel Sideways, Occupy Wall Street is opening.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes, I heard of that one.
By the way, a lot of these things are suddenly just getting ready to go is because the deadline for all the LEA exhibits to be open is the end of the month. And on February 5th, I realize I'm kind of mad, but on February 5th, we're having a big art festival, essentially. It'll be a sort of weekend house. All the exhibits will be open. Artists will be doing events. I'll be out doing interviews. And it'll be all kinds of things. So I'll let you know more about that closer to the time too.
That
But
sounds fantastic.
Right.
yeah, it's sort of all go at the LEA.
I was going to actually ask you a question specifically about Rose's exhibit, which
Yeah.
I hadn't seen yet. You said that she's moved, that this one is very interactive compared with some of the earlier ones. Do you think this is a kind of developing feature of her art, or is it just happened this time?
No, I think it's been developing because her last exhibit on her Sim 2 fish is actually still open to The Inevitability of Fate, if you haven't been over there to see it. And her brand of interaction, I think, is slightly different. It's not like Fuchsia where you wear the avatar necessarily or Bryn that we'll talk about in just a second. But for example, I don't know if you can see on the camera, I've got this fish balloon.
Yes. Well, I can see it because I'm sitting here, and I'm sure Pet is now zooming in on it.
Yeah.
Rowan, I'm sorry, your voice is fading in and out of Skype, and we can't really hear you. So what I'm going to do is hang up and call you back, okay?
Okay.
And hopefully we're all back now.
Yes, hopefully. Yes,
Hello?
I'm admiring the fish now. I can see it. Yeah.
It's a very handsome fish.
It is a lovely fish. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes, much,
Okay.
much.
Yes.
So tell us about the fish.
So if I don't know if you can see, but it's actually how it's attached to my hand is through, basically a spike through my hand. And we were walking, and Rose gives away all these kind of wearables in her exhibits now, and that's kind of how you become part of it. So there's a I won't tell you what they all are, but they're basically, as you travel through her exhibits, you get given things that you can wear. And this was one of them. And I was walking through the exhibit with our wonderful photographer, PJ Trenton, as he was shooting it. And I got very excited. I said, look, it's a fish balloon. He's like, yeah, look at your hand. There's a massive spike through my hand that's holding the fish balloon in place. And I was like, oh. So that's kind of what her work is like. It's whimsical at the same time. It's disturbing. But I do think she thinks quite a lot more about the avatar being part of it. One of the things I asked her when I interviewed her for SL9B about the inevitability of fate was whether or not she had an intentional direction that the avatar should travel through their narrative. Like Bryn takes you on a very clear path when she takes you through her work. But Rose kind of puts things out there so that in this work, in her new and the arrival, you kind of do follow a direct path down the back of this fish, but the inevitability of fate ends up being almost like a non-linear narrative because she doesn't make it very clear of where you're supposed to go. So in the end, you end up collecting all these components of a story that through the sound and the visuals and the pieces that you pick up end up coming together in a very powerful kind of way. And I really like that actually, because I think she's really exploiting the virtual space in an interesting way through doing that.
Yes, I agree. I love that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing this one too.
So did you want to hear about Bryn? Was that the other one?
So,
well, Mel?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm just very curious when I got both of you here. Isn't LEA is something that came up this morning, I think it was. A show called Jabba Jabba being put on by something called the New Synthetic Theatre. Are you aware of this at all?
Yes, I saw it on Inara Pay's blog, but I really don't know anything about it at all. And I'll be interested in looking into it because obviously we've been doing a bit of that kind of stuff. I like it's an interesting boundary, isn't it? Where does interactive theatre become art and where does interactive art become theatre? Because they are leading people into performance art, I think. I'm not even sure I would call it theatre. It's more like performance art that people can join in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only read about it briefly myself and don't know much about it, but it does sound incredibly intriguing.
I think interactivity is becoming a big thing. I was talking to someone the other day, and I'm going to be talking to him more about who are actually doing an interactive comic strip on the web, which uses Second Life as a medium, where the audience can actually vote on the plot.
Oh, fantastic!
And even more than that, I mean, I'll know more when I've talked to him at more length. But there's things like you can actually give tokens to the characters you like to improve their stats. There's a very gamey element of this. So if you want your hero to go up against the bad guys and stand a chance of surviving, you get him stats. It's almost like voting people in on Big Brother. I'm not completely sure how it works yet, but I'm going to find out about that. So I'll report back.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Well, I'll mention, I'll just do another little plug again, because really it's for the benefit of the community. The LEA decided to take one of the core sims, so it's not one of the 20 that are earmarked for the grants, but one of the core 9, and turn it into a performance art residency, or rather performing arts residency. So there's a post on the LEA blog about that, how people who are in performing arts groups can apply to use the sim to take it on, just like the land grants. But it's specifically for performing arts. So it's a 6-month residency there.
Very interesting.
Oh, interesting. Right. So it could be a performance that lasts 6 months rather than just a space for. Okay.
It'd be an evolving performance. They're quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they're quarter sim parcels.
The other thing I read on this blog about the the Jabberwocky sounds like the best one here, but you buy tickets for 75 Linden, which of course in real money is practically nothing, on the ground, and you book a given performance. So it's not strictly an arts issue here, but what I found interesting here is we're back to a concept of booking paid tickets for performances, which has been tried before in Second Life with music performances and things, but it is still quite rare, isn't it?
It's useful in that you can then control the number of people who turn up on the sim, so you're not going to get flooded out. I've
Mm.
certainly gone to ticketed events, but they've usually not been because of the money they were hoping to raise. They've been because of the of controlling avatars, controlling avatar numbers, and also
Yeah.
protecting against griefers. The sky dancers used to do that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way of doing management, I suppose. Okay, well, let's move on. What was we had the Brno, wasn't it? Was it going to be our next?
Yes, yes. Bruno's new work, Imogen and the Pigeons, opens today, actually. And I just have to say, as a disclaimer, in case it slips out, and I told Bryn this too, every time I've written the title of that exhibit or said it, I want to say Imogen and the Penguins. And I told her that should be the sequel, and I think she likes it. So
It
so
is odd actually. Yeah, pigeons
yeah,
aren't
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
favorite
It's
cup of
it's
tea, are
pigeons, not penguins. That's a completely different
Pigeons,
concept.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Could radically change her
it
artistic
really
vision if
would.
it were penguins,
It
yes.
really would. Which ironically, there are huge penguins in Rose's work, and I saw Bryn's work before Rose's, and then when I was walking around on Rose, I went, "Oh God, good, there's penguins."
Yes.
So anyway, but that aside, Bryn's, I mean, what can I say? It's absolutely fantastic. Imogen and the Pigeons is what you've come to expect. It's an incredible narrative. It's dark but poignant. It you know I mean, when Honor just blogged about this earlier, Honor McMillan, and said, said I knew it was gonna. She said something about how she figured it was going to leave her in tears, but she didn't confess to it. And I've talked to her about this too. I'm the same way every time. Um, it's just so moving, particularly if you take the time to go through it. And I often wonder, I hope that people don't just go and kind of rush through the exhibit to see what's there. When you sit and you allow yourself to be immersed into her, it's really just a story. It's like walking through a storybook, often incredibly sad and disturbing storybook. But this one is definitely like that. I feel that it is that even though Bryn has been using interactive components for quite a while, every exhibit she makes sort of pushes it a little bit further. And this one uses some very new scripts that are incredibly interactive and very strange and surreal. So as where in previous exhibits, the Rabicorn story, there's a tower you climb where things are constantly knocking you down. There's actually almost a game-like aspect to some of her exhibits. And the same thing is true with the start of this one. It's a little bit of a game and a little bit of a struggle just to get to the start of the exhibit. Which might be problematic with the kind of lag and technical problems we've had this week. When PJ and I went for the preview Tuesday night, we actually couldn't quite make it through. But we did get back there last night and it was fine. Everything worked great. And it's just, again, you just want to make sure you look at every single detail, click on everything. There's hidden rooms, there's her poetry throughout. Make sure you have your sound on. And I'm being very vague because I don't want to give it away. I've already seen people posting pictures of, for example, there is a hidden thing at the end and someone posted a picture of it. And I just thought, no, don't do it. Someone else went into the Immersiva group and said, it took me 4 hours to get to the blah, blah, blah at the end. And I sort of wrote back, spoiler alert. And I don't want to really say anymore because I want people to go experience the story for themselves. It's well worth it. But just when you go, don't go if you're having a laggy, craptastic Second Life day, and don't go if you have anything less than an hour. And I recommend at least 2 to do it. It's truly an experience, and I think, again, wonderfully done.
Great. There are always people, aren't there, who are going to spoil the ending and things. The last, the last. I remember. I think it was Dizzy Banjo once had an installation that you had to play various notes and
Mm.
things, and it was very rare to hit the right notes. And when the right notes came, I think something rezzed. I can't quite remember. It's a very long time ago, but it was almost impossible to photograph because it rezzed so briefly.
Yeah.
By the time you were ready to expose it, it had gone again. But
It's
yeah,
intuitive.
people will sort of, oh, I reached the end. Here's the scene.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know if they want, even I was doing the Mad Pea Hunt a couple weeks ago, and really wanted to search for stuff and find it. And you'd be standing around, and there'd be some avatar being like, "Oh, it's over here," and I wanted to punch them. 'Cause-
well, I and Tara both did that hunt. We love the Mappy hunts, but the last clue on that was, I nobody gave me any clues. It was impossible. You had to the worst sort of clues, but you really had to hunt around that whole
but
sim, and it wasn't fun. It
satisfying.
wasn't fun.
Oh, I love. I thought it was great, but it's hard too when you write about this stuff because I want. When I wrote about this one earlier this week, actually, I said in my post, I said, actually, I'm really glad that I crashed and couldn't get through it because I would have rambled on about this and I don't want to. I want to leave it to the people who visit it to see it. But what was really interesting too is when we made it through last night and Bryn was around and it was still kind of preview phase, so we were like, there's a typo here, kind of. And you click on this. So it was good. We were sort of play testing it in a way, which was great. And
Right.
and so we were chatting. I was chatting with her at the end, and she's like, so what did you think happened here? she she wanted to make sure that, I mean, I think she's like, what, wanted to know what I got out of the story. Did I get all the bits and pieces? And she gets really excited about it too.
Mm.
Wants to make sure that everything comes through and comes across. And I asked her, is it important for you that people get this right, go through? Is it important for you that they actually are reading your narrative the way you want them to, and that the story comes through? Because she's so excited to kind of explain it at the end and make sure you got everything. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no. I do want people to have their own experience. I realize that. But at the same time, I don't mind telling people. So even she.
It's I can understand that you can be involved with something, and you want people to experience it, and but there's another side of you watching them that is
Yeah.
impatient. You want to tell them what to do, where to go, and how it ends. You
Yeah,
don't quite know where to leave it to them or to keep prompting them.
that's
But
exactly right.
yeah.
When we night that it was Tuesday night when SL was so bad, and I was like, I said, Bryn, I just cannot get up these. She has these. This doesn't give anything away. One of the things at the start, there's a couple different. I will say this for people who get frustrated. There are, I believe, 4 different ways to essentially get up the cliff to where things begin. One of them is a scripted shifting staircase that's quite hard to navigate, and you have to go very slowly. In lag, it's impossible. Um,
Impossible. Yeah.
it, and so there are other ways to do it, but it's definitely worth an attempt if you have a good connection. But I told her, I was like, I just can't do this. There's no way. She's like, I'll TP you. And I was like, no.
Cheat. That's cheating. Oh, she wants to show off too. That's it, of course.
It was
Um,
I
I
get frustrated, but
so we're losing your voice there again a bit. This isn't strictly, well, I don't know whether it's art or not, but I suddenly realized there's something I didn't include in my headlines earlier. And that's is strangelings, which are these strange creatures. Now, there's a kind of in-world sim dedicated to them, but this is a kind of game that's
Oh,
come
yes,
coming to the
yes.
iPad. And during the week, about 2 days ago, I received a beta request response, and they're actually sending out the to beta testers. It's called Test Flight on the iPad. There's a program called Test Flight that allows you to get into beta apps. And once they got your email address and everything, they send you out invites, and those are on their way. So I'm looking forward to talking about that
That's
soon. But also, if anybody signed up for that, you can expect your test flight invite any day.
Is it called Test Flight? I'm going to sign up for that.
Well, no, Test Flight is an app. It's an
Yeah.
app on the iPad,
Yeah.
and it's not an application in its own right. It's simply a portal application
Right.
and allows you to get beta apps. And you have to be in touch with the person who wants to beta test. But they put your email address on their list, and then the Test Flight app notifies you as to the download kind of thing. So, but yeah, Test Flight's quite useful. I've had a few people who said, "Will you test this out for me?" And they send you a link, and the download link doesn't come to iTunes; it comes to the Test Flight program. But it's it's a good way of sort of experimenting with half-built stuff. But Strange Things, of course, is amongst other people is Chris Collins, a former Linden, and Philip Linden, in fact. Rosedale's one of the backers. So it's something to watch, I think.
Is that the one that the people behind Osmos are working on as well?
Yeah, they're involved. I think it is most Chris Collins and the Osmos people and things, and additionally they've had backers, for the for building the iPad app. So anyway, sorry, something that came in about a day ago. So I thought I'd mention that. We did cover it a few weeks back. So what else? What else is is everything at the LEA? Or are there other things?
No, there's lots and lots of other things. I know there's a very sad perception out there that everything's at the LEA. Well, there's a lot of amazing things at the LEA, but not everything's there.
Fuchsia's not for a start.
Fuchsia's not there. No, absolutely not. And as a matter of fact, there is one other exhibit opening today, which is Stephen Venkman, who is a wonderful photographer, digital, however you want to. He calls himself, I think, a virtual impressionist or something in the way he works, but he's a virtual photographer, and he has an exhibition opening at Eliza Weirwhite's Patron. She's got a gallery there called Elephant and Sea Drake, and that exhibit's opening actually in about 23 minutes actually over there at Patron. So if there's anyone watching live and wants to go to an art opening, but that's something that's a little bit more, I guess, traditional in that it's a virtual 2D approach. But his images are really beautiful, and it's I think well worth going to and checking out over there. So, yeah.
And exploring Ice and Sim at the same time.
Yeah. Sorry, Mal, what was that?
I was just going to say, I've got the picture 26, 128, 38. I've actually got a blog open, which is a blog well worth following sometimes. Kara's Corner. It's a Second Life blog, and she actually featured that today. She's actually only got a couple of it. Yeah, it looks nice.
We featured it too.
Yeah, I'm just skimming the top of the list. There's probably
that's good.
They go down here.
I think that's good, because the whole thing is there's so much going on that there are things which I think often get missed, and in terms of things happening in other places. Just there's the art and artist gallery. There's groups that are constantly announcing things. But I mean, I think it's an interesting time in the arts. There's a lot of discussion about the direction of things with galleries. There was a big hubbub yesterday and today about a particular gallery almost opening and then not opening. It was a bit controversial and opening a lot of questions. Did you miss that one? I don't know. Do we talk about controversy here?
We can talk about controversy. We like controversy.
We love controversy.
Well, I feel it's a little gossipy. But no, if you look at Kwan Lavender writes a fantastic blog, Kwan's Travelogues. And she, she's very switched on in the arts community. She's a curator as well at, say it's New India Gallery. Forgive me, Kwan. I can't remember. Yeah. So
on Shekhawati.
Yes. So Kwan wrote a really great post about this. It was an interesting situation with the Norden Art Gallery, I guess the curator had left and was coming back and got William Weaver to build this new building. And now I'm getting this from reading Kwan's blog, so this is all
Okay.
like third hand at this point, and you should
Hearsay.
go
We
just
will
read.
we will
Yeah,
qualify
you
that
should
this
just go
is
go read
hearsay here.
Kwan's blog, and she knows William Weaver very well. But I guess what happened was he's very he's an architect and apparently a very good one, and she had a lot to say about him, a lot of good things, and the build that he was building was quite beautiful. And he had taken a break, and the curator decided that she wanted this show to open this weekend and had put a bunch of 3D work in along with the 2D, where he had really designed this gallery conceptually to be for 2D and not so much some 3D work. And anyway, one thing led to another, and the long and the short of it is he didn't like the way the art was being displayed in the build. He tried to talk to the curator about it. The curator was basically saying it's going to, I guess, wasn't budging on that. And either he picked up his build or I think she returned everything or something, and everybody exited stage left in a strop, and no one's coming back to Second Life or something like that.
God.
One of these kinds of things. Um, but anyway, I think the incident, outside of the drama and what everyone's going to say about it, the incident raises some really interesting questions which have crossover in the real world. And I think in terms of, and it's a comment I left on her blog, in terms of, well, you can get an amazing architect to design your virtual gallery. You can get the Frank Gehry, the Zaha Hadid of
Mm.
Second Life to come and build something, but it's still a functional space. And it sounds like there was a bit of a problem on both sides, maybe not enough communication from the curator on what her expectations were, and then the architect who's building something quite wonderful, but maybe not understanding that actually the architecture has to be in service to the function of the space.
Yeah.
So it does open a lot of questions because, of course, in the art world, we have a lot of arguing back and forth over whether galleries should even exist. And there's people who say, why would you have a gallery? It's stupid. We're in a virtual space. Why? You don't need a wall. Whereas I think personally, you do have to have a wall if you're showing something that's approximating 2D art because your eye needs a place to rest and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, there's a lot of these interesting kinds of problems around it, I think.
Yeah, you've got to hang them somewhere. Yeah, you've got to have a lamp too, quite frankly. I mean, something can be as bizarre as you like, but you've got to give them a landmark, an anchor point to witness it or see it. So, yes.
Well,
the fun is the mix. I've got to admit, mix and match things here in ways, as well as kind of Stephen, that we can possibly do in Zartir there. For mixing and matching things. But it does operation, mind you. That's the main thing.
It's interesting because anybody who says anything has to be one way or the other is just kind of kidding themselves. It's a virtual world. You can have anything you want. If that means you want a perfectly realistic building, fine. If that means you want everything floating in the sky, fine. It's, but in terms of the way that you look at things, you go through work like the ones we talked about today, Rose, Bryn, and Fuchsia, and they're meant to be made, they're made to be moved through. You don't have to have the same kind of walls there. It's not necessary. Rose doesn't have a big box of a gallery surrounding her fish. She has a backdrop on two sides to give it a setting, to give it a sense of place, but there's no. Whereas you go somewhere that's displaying virtual photography, it's not so much of having the sense of a wall that it has to hang on. It's actually the idea I need a place to rest. It needs quiet around work. It's actually a visual thing. I'm sort of gesturing and real.
Yeah, but it's very true. If you just stuck it out there, and behind it is like a landscape with sunset going on and darkness, and then light comes and everything, and there's a landscape behind it. It's so busy that it's going to draw the eye away from the work itself. You want to just focus in that situation on the work to the exclusion of the background.
Exactly. That's
Mm.
very
Actually, Rowan and Mal, I'm going to talk for a few minutes now, and I'm going to call you both back because the call's degraded again. I think Pet Shop would probably agree with this. Okay.
Yes, indeed. Okay, folks. Well, if you just hang on a minute, you'll probably hear some weird bleeping noises in the background. And well, Skype reconnects us, and we will be back.
Okay, and I will carry on talking. So disconnecting and then reconnecting. And they'll be joining us again very shortly. In fact, I think Rowan's already back. Hello, Rowan.
hello.
Yes, that sounds better. And Mal.
And we're back. It's amazing. It's amazingly quick, isn't it?
Amazing technology, yeah.
Okay, but before we move to you, Safia, quickly, I've put a link in our Skype chat here, and for the benefit of viewers, it's a blog called sleartexposed.weebly.com. And it's a new. Well, I say it's new. I seem to recall it's a fairly new blog that I've been getting a feed from, dealing with Second Life Arts. But if you follow the link I've given you, the latest post is it's actually an advert for Booking Now, but it's something called Skydance 5 by DC Spenceley. Do you know anything about this by any chance, either of you? It sounds intriguing.
I've been to an earlier performance by the Sky Dancers, and it is very spectacular. They had, I don't know how they'll be doing this one, but it was very good to see last time. They move through the air in a number of complex patterns, some of which are scripted and some of which they do for themselves, I believe. They have special music composed for them, special costumes designed, and I don't know what they'll be doing this time, but they had it was this kind of tower that was almost like a kaleidoscope of colour and light, and they moved slowly up through it, dancing as they went. There was a story connected with them, and as they and you sat in the seats, which actually moved up, and you could follow the story as it went. As it moved up. I was invited by Bill Sterling, the designer of the Galaxy, if you remember Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yes, indeed.
Because a couple of the Galaxy staff were training as sky dancers in their spare time when their duties on the Galaxy released them. So we actually went to see it, and it was a very spectacular show. Yeah, so I'll be interested to see what it looks like.
The thing that it connected with what we were talking about earlier, actually, because the final thing on this blurb says not only is it highly interactive, but the audience determines how the story ends. So it connects.
This seems to be the way to go, doesn't it? This seems to be this interactivity and joining in the end of the story seems to be a feature at the moment.
Maybe we should put that in appeal to the viewers watching the show live at the moment. How want us to end? Anyways, Safia, a few other things to say.
Right. Well, I haven't got an awful lot of news this week. There are various. One of the things that I will tell people to do, though, is to go and visit some favourite old Sims that are disappearing. If you like Alchemy Immortalis Sims, as gorgeous Ireland-inspired Sims created by Alchemy and Immortalis, the four of them that are open to the public are going to be closed. They are being sold to private owners. They've gone into private ownership for people to enjoy. The one sim will remain, which is where the Alchemy Immortalis store is, and the patisserie, thank goodness, is going to survive. The place to go with your bestie, your best girlfriend, to have lunch, I think, in Second Life. The most marvellous patisserie. And when you buy the cakes, you actually get the recipes in real life. So you can go away and cook the lavender bread and the cakes. Oh, the cakes. Yeah, no,
Lavender
let's
bread.
stop. And you don't put on a
Lavender.
single ounce. My hips remain the same size no matter how many of those cakes I scarf down.
Well,
So,
even the recipe made one.
well, no, I just have to drool over those and not make them. But the pixel ones,
Right.
yeah, they're absolutely great. However, the open part of the Sims are going, which is on the one hand a shame. There was some fun things to do there, like catching a roadster and traveling around the roads and exploring some beautiful locations, lovely locations for photographs, and lots of eccentric sheep to meet as well who did things. You could even buy a sheep avatar, join the sheep in the fields, and then when some unwary traveller came past, you could yell boo at them and chase them. And that really, really freaked people. But apart
Oh,
from all this, yeah, they're going. I I'm sorry to see them go, but I'm not kind of banging my head on the ground and gnashing my teeth and wailing for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're going to good homes. You know, they have been bought by people who love this style and who will appreciate them. And secondly, it frees up Alchemy and Immortalis from estate management, and they will be able to spend time creating fantastic new stuff. This is not a bad thing. This is a
yeah.
good thing. Second one.
That happens so much, doesn't it? People getting bogged down in management and then stop creating. It's a shame.
Yeah. And we want them to go back. We want them creating because they are fantastic. Another one that's closing down, last chance to see, that is Keridon's Cauldron, the lower level of Keridon's Cauldron.
Oh.
Well, it's an R because the beautiful place we know and love will be going, but it's an ooh because he's doing the whole thing in mesh.
Oh,
yeah, I told you it was going to be.
Use and the R's. Don't you love it? Now, actually, that is a great place. You featured that in part of the Black Mirror too, didn't you?
That was in episode 4. It was the place where they encountered the Seekers of Truth.
I'm going to have to run there and get some of those wonderful, exotic, otherworldly plants, actually.
The shop will still be open, I understand, throughout, and you'll still be able to buy the plants and things. And,
okay.
He's just redesigning the ground level. There's also a temple level up top. Did you visit Fantasy Fair last year?
I think I briefly. Unfortunately, it's like many of these popular Inworld events. Every time you go, it just seems to be lag hell. And I remember TPing in and out quite a few times. You know, just having to give up. But I think I saw a bit of it.
Alicio designed the Temple of New Orne, the one that was based on Angkor Wat.
Oh, right.
Sort of beautiful temple structure. And he's actually got a large part of that up on a platform, and you can still go and visit it. So it's, you know, there are still things to see. Keridon's Cauldron should not be neglected just because the ground's going away for a few weeks. Other ones that are going, Armada Breakaway's going, which is sad. It's sort of based on a book by China Miéville. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. A science fiction writer with a very unusual, very vivid imagination. And he has this one book called Armada Breakaway, this collection. I don't think it's called Armada Breakaway, but there is this place, which is basically a collection of pirate ships, steampunk pirate ships, lashed together, sort of a city sailing the waves with steam airships tied above them and strange monsters swimming below them. And there's a sim that's been based on that, and that sadly is going too. But the active people on the sim are actually relocating to the Blake Sea, and where they'll have their own pirate colony. So that'll be quite fun.
Yeah, I've been to that one actually. I liked that was a good build. That was definitely a good build.
And the other one is actually Gabrielle Real has been running New Toulouse, which is kind of turn of the century New Orleans,
Yeah.
for the last 4 years. And she's actually sold that. She's given that up. But she is setting up 3 utterly gorgeous kind of witchy Sims, which I went over and took a look at. And they are beautiful and very exciting, I should think, in terms
Witchy,
of storytelling.
witchy as in sort of witches, spooky
Celtic.
witches. Or yeah. Okay.
It's really rather gorgeous.
And New Toulouse is staying. It's just she's
New
given up
Toulouse has
ownership
just
of
been
it.
sold. Yes, it's under new management.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting. I was looking around, and there are these stories of change, but all of them are quite encouraging change, because they're not, people slamming the door, going and never returning. It's people taking on new projects, even when the projects, even when some of the things are disappearing, there are good things coming out of it. Like, the cauldron ground level is going away. Ooh, he's building it in mesh.
Well, it's funny. I'm keeping an eye on our channel chat here, and Valiant Westland, who's with us, was actually commenting that moving to mesh and ultimately exporting to Kitely and Cloud Party seems to be a current future path for many of ourselves designers. But when something like the lower levels of the cauldron go away, I'm just I just think of all that vegetation, especially the architecture too. It's a wonderful mix of organic and constructed things. And of course, this was all done before mesh, and it's a very hard job to actually, unless you sell it to somebody in World, it's a very hard job to back it all up. Whereas, you mentioned things that are coming online that are actually built solely in mesh, and presumably these are things that could be taken down in the future, but will be available offline to be redeployed on OpenSim, Kitely, Cloud Party, wherever. So there is, this the offline authoring is sort of maybe opening up a more permanent aspect to building, even if it's not in the same place.
It certainly is for major builders. It's going to be tougher for the mom and pop builders.
The mom and pop builders? Define this, please, Sally.
Well, I'm talking about people who perhaps can't afford the more expensive tools like Maya.
Yeah. Sure.
And who have been able to build things in world with prims and so forth, but who may not be able to keep up with all the technological demands of the new 3D modeling offline.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a mom and I'm not a pop, but I definitely fit in the same bracket. So. I take your point there. Yeah, for sure. No, I mean everything comes to an end. The other thing that's closing this week, actually, I didn't mention, is the Swedish embassy. Believe it or not, the country of Sweden has an embassy, or had an embassy in Second Life.
Real embassy, not
it's a real embassy. It was financed by the British government, I guess, like their embassies anywhere else. But apparently that's closing shortly too. So. It's trial and error, I suppose, to see if something like that works. And if it doesn't, you can't really keep it up. So
that is a shame.
So,
like I say, not much news this week. That's about it for me.
I know. It's yes. Anything else we haven't got round to yet, Rowan, on the openings front, or?
I don't think so. I was just peeking at Kwan's blog to see, because she's very, like I said, she's very up on it, and there does seem to be an opening Winter Nightfire actually is having, I think it's a charity thing, but I mean, it's Kwan Lavender .blogspot.co.com, I guess, .co.uk. But at Artsy Art House. Yeah, Winter Nightfire, actually. I guess there's she's having a charity event. But I mean, again, I think there's a lot of good blogs out there to keep up on, and there will be more and more things opening up.
Including Prim Perfect, of course. She adds firmly.
Yes,
including
Prim
Perfect. And Honor is.
Yes.
Yes, I'm constantly pinching Honor's pictures to put in the Prim Perfect jigsaw.
Honor's very good about. I think both Honor and Quan are the blogs that I look at to see. I mean, obviously, I get the inside track on some things, but I think Honor, both of them, I know have a lot more time to write than I do, and unfortunately, I just when I write, I like to write so intensely and analytically that it takes me a lot longer. I don't just put things out there like I'd like to. Actually, I'll also plug PJ Trenton, our photographer, has rebooted his blog. And it's really beautiful. It's full of his images and visits. And he's actually doing some really nice short write-ups of these places with the slurls.
That's great.
Yeah, virtually PJ. And so maybe he should be putting those on Prim Perfect too. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot out there, but I definitely I think the ones we featured are, do not miss.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other I will mention. I don't think it's strictly arts or entertainment. It might be a bit entertaining, but actually more to do with safety. And that is if you go to a sim in Second Life called Bailey, that's Baley. Default coordinates, in fact. There is something called a winter safety game, and I got this from oddly enough the Public Works Group blog, but it's basically an interactive game Inworld that teaches you all about safety in wintertime. And speaking for somebody who's broadcasting from the UK, where the weather forecast is just quite literally told us we're going to have the worst week ever until Friday with snow, ice, travel disruption, and just about everything else they can list. It might be very useful the game to go and explore so that I'm prepared when I next go out into the organic sim. Yeah, stuff there. It's good to always the educational builds too, and that's one of them. Okay, well, I think if we're done here, we can safely wrap up what is now Week in Review Inworld, or Inworld Week in Review, or something. The Inworld part
the Inworld edition
of the Metaverse Week in Review.
Metaverse Week in Review.
Yes, exactly. This, I think, will be the first one where we actually post it as a standalone show on YouTube, so people can sort of tune in and watch it independently of the main show. So we'll see how that goes, and long may it continue. So it's wonderful to have had you here, Rowan. We must
Thanks
make
so
this
much.
a regular thing, maybe once a month or something, just sort of update on the arts or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah,
thanks for having me. It was fun.
And of course, thanks to you, Safia.
It's a
putting
pleasure,
it all together as ever.
And soon I'll be able to bring news of new TV shows as well. Yay!
Of
course. We're filming like crazy at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for those of you watching live, we're now going to return to the clips and the sort of live action webcam portion.
Before we do, can I put in a plug, please?
Yes.
We are having on Prim Perfect, the blog at the moment, we have a section where we are enabling virtual couples, people who are couples in Second Life, either who met in First Life or who met in Second Life or who met somewhere on the internet and have since brought their romance to Second Life. We're offering them a chance to tell their story because our next issue of Prim Perfect is going to be our February issue, and we're going to feature stories of people who've met. We've already got some that people have sent in, and they're wonderful. They're very moving stories of people getting together through a virtual world. So if you've got a story to tell, do come along to the Prim Perfect blog and scroll down through it, and you'll find the form. Just fill it in and send it to us, please.
Very good. Very good. That's yeah, that could be interesting. But I keep wondering what happened to the it's a show I think it ran for 8 episodes last year. We were running here called Talk Like Dim
Yes.
Sum, and it was you remember we were showing them that,
Mm.
but that was actually quite intriguing. You think at first, well, what can be said about those relationships? But when you get into a good conversation, you learn quite a lot. In fact, so yeah, great stuff. Okay, well, that's your last plug, or
That's my
anything
last plug.
else?
That's it.
Okay, okay. You'll be back next week, of course.
I'll be back next week. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for watching, folks. If you are watching live, do stay tuned for the rest of the Metaverse Week in View, the big show, so to speak. And we'll be back here next week. So do join us again then. And with that, I'm queuing back in the studio where we got some more clips awaiting. And yep, that's it.